Hi everyone, we're going to sketch the graph of this polynomial, f of x. First of all, let's look at the degree of the polynomial. Since this is not in standard form, we're just going to add the exponents here. So 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, degree equals 3. Because if you FOILed this out and condensed it, you would have the x cubed. So that's an odd number. We'll just put that there. And also, our lead coefficient here is negative. Let's put negative here. We'll look at this in just a minute. Now, our y-intercept is when x is 0. So if you plug that in, that's going to give you 0. So we have a y-intercept at 0, 0. And for our x-intercepts, that is when y is 0. So we'll have a 0 here. 1 minus 1 is 0, and 3 minus 3 is 0. So, and all the multiplicities are 1. These are multiplicities. So we have 0, 0. By the way, anytime your y-intercept is 0, so is your x-intercept. So 1, 0, and 3, 0. Your maximum turning points is your n, which is 3 minus 1. That equals 2. And we're going to determine where the graph of f of x is negative and when the graph is positive on these intervals after we graph it. So now we're going to go back to M behavior. So let's talk about that. We have an odd degree and our lead coefficient is negative. So where you have an odd degree and your lead coefficient's negative falls in this area right here. So, and our degree was 3. So if you graph this, I'm just going to sketch it right here. That means this is my M behavior, which this is quadrant 2. And down here, this is quadrant 4. And remember, when you graph, you're graphing left to right. So quadrant 2 is negative, positive for x and y. Quadrant 4 is positive, negative. So if you look at this, you have x is positive, y is negative. That's quadrant 4. If you look at this, we have the negative and positive. This is going to be quadrant 2. All right, and all this means is that as x goes towards positive, gets larger and larger from 0, our y gets negative, gets smaller and smaller from 0. So that's quadrant 4. That portion of the graph is in quadrant 4. And as x gets smaller and smaller from 0, our y gets larger and larger from 0. That puts us in quadrant 2. So we're going to be graphing from quadrant 2 to quadrant 4. Now let's plot our zeros. So our y-intercept and x-intercept is 0, 0, 1, and 3. We're not going to worry about exact min and max values. All our multiplicities are 1, so that means we can cross our y equals 0 line here. So once we get to 0, whoops, let me try to do this. Once we get to 0, we can cross. And again, I'm not going to worry about how far. We're just going to kind of make a U-turn like that. We're just getting a general form of the graph. And then we can cross here as well and kind of come back. If you want to put in, this is 0, 1, and 3. If you want to plug in 2, you could. And we can cross at 3 too, because the multiplicity is an odd number. So you're crossing here. So we did end up the way we were supposed to, our M behavior. And let's look at where our graph is positive and negative. So if you take this line here, y equals 0, we want to look where y is positive. That means above the graph. That's f of x is positive. So it's positive here to 0. So negative infinity to 0. And it's also positive here. It's above this y equals 0 here, which is 1, 2, 3. Now, where is our graph of f of x? Negative. We have 2 places. So where's our y negative? It's right here, this little portion. That's below the y equals 0. So that's from 0 to 1. And right here, that's below the graph. So that's going to be 3 to infinity. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.